A federal judge has ordered immigration officials to release Kilmar Abrego Garcia. It's the latest turn in a case that's become a flashpoint in the Trump administration's aggressive crackdown on immigration. Earlier this year, Abrego Garcia was mistakenly deported to El Salvador, then eventually returned to the U.S. and taken into ICE custody. Joining us to discuss the latest, Zach Schoenfeld, courts and legal reporter here at The Hill. Hey, Zach, so bring us up to date. What has happened since Abrego Garcia was taken into ICE custody in August, and what's going to be the impact of this ruling?
Hey, Drew. Well, Abrego Garcia has been fighting for this day ever since he has been back in ICE custody since late August. He has been there now for several months. And a lot of what we've seen play out in court ever since then is the Trump administration's efforts to deport him to one of several African countries where he has no ties. He first got notice that the administration wanted to deport him to Uganda. Then it was Eswatini. Then it was Ghana, although they later then walked that back, saying it was premature. And then the last country that they had been proposing in court was deporting him to Liberia. Meanwhile, Abrego Garcia had said that he wanted to be sent to Costa Rica. And it is really that ping-ponging that is at the center of this judge's ruling. This ruling today is a ruling from Judge Paula Zines. She is a appointee of former President Obama who serves in Maryland. And saying that these recent developments and these attempts to deport him to country after country in Africa, she says, just goes to show that the Trump administration has no lawful basis to continue to hold him in custody. So the bottom line of today's ruling is that this paves the way for Abrego Garcia's immediate release from an ICE facility.
So are we expecting him to kind of walk out of one of these facilities any moment now, any day? And then what happens if he actually is released? Where would he go?
Yeah, it seems it'll happen pretty quickly here. The judge in her order used the word immediately to describe how fast she wants this to happen. Now, at another point, she said that the government needs to provide Abrego Garcia's team at least 4 hours notice of when they're going to have him walk out so they can be prepared to receive him. But just to give you an idea of how fast she wants this to move, is the judge has demanded an update later today. She wants an update by 5 p.m. Eastern by email on the current progress. And so, Drew, that certainly sends a big signal that if nothing has happened, that she's going to start escalating things very quickly. Now, that being said, once this release happens, that's not the end of the story. He, of course, still has his criminal case in Tennessee on those human smuggling charges where he's awaiting trial, and he is still subject to those pre-trial release conditions. So chief among those conditions is he is subject to home detention. So he will be back at his house in Maryland with his family, but still subject to that home detention, also some other monitoring to ensure that he appears in court as well. But still a big win for him. He's been fighting for months now to get out of ICE custody.
You mentioned that other case. The DOJ has accused Abrego Garcia of human smuggling in a case that's playing out in a federal court in Tennessee. What is the latest with that case? Do we expect it to go to trial anytime soon?
We could see that go to trial. At least it won't be until at least next year, but we could potentially see that go to trial soon. There are still some big steps that have to happen between now and then. For example, Abrego Garcia has raised a motion trying to dismiss his prosecution, saying that it is a vindictive prosecution, essentially retribution against him, with the Trump administration they claim is trying to essentially cover up and the embarrassment of the wrongful deportation back this spring. So that's all still pending. But another mystery has really popped up, Drew, over the last week or so, and that is we've seen a flurry of filings come in on that criminal docket in Tennessee. But I wish I could tell you about what they are, but all of these filings have been under seal, so we don't know what is going on. But I can tell you that something is going on right now behind the scenes. There's been quite a number of filings. The judge there in Tennessee has signaled that there is the potential that some of those filings could be unsealed later this month. So some big unanswered questions right now. But I'll tell you, Drew, there's been a lot of activity behind the scenes on that docket over the last week.
What's the Trump administration saying about the latest in this case?
They are not happy about this ruling from the judge in Maryland, Judge Zines. We have heard from the spokesperson for the Department of Homeland Security, Tricia McLaughlin. She has called this, she's pointed out the fact that this judge was appointed by former President Obama, a Democrat, calling this judicial activism. Also vowing that the Trump administration is going to continue to fight this order, signaling that they may try to appeal it as well. So the Trump administration certainly not happy about this at all.
If we look into the future, what are the possible outcomes of these cases. I imagine if he's convicted in Tennessee, he could end up spending time in jail here in the U.S. And then if not, are his lawyers resigned to the fact that eventually he might be deported and they just want to make sure that that country is a place like Costa Rica and not an African country, which the Trump administration has been pushing for?
I think that's right, Drew. As you read through the filings from Abrego Garcia's lawyers in this battle over deporting him to Africa, the main point that they've tried to make is, they acknowledge that he potentially could be deported here, but they say that he has chosen Costa Rica and that Costa Rica has agreed to accept him. That is something the Trump administration had pushed back on in court before the judge, saying that Costa Rica had not agreed to accept him. The judge actually found that to be untrue in this ruling, actually accusing the Trump administration of misleading her by insisting that Costa Rica wasn't agreeing to accept him. So to a certain extent, Drew, yeah, they have resigned to the fact that he could be deported to Costa Rica. And I do think it's important to point out that, yes, he's now going to be released from an ICE facility, but this is not the end of his immigration story and his immigration proceedings. There still are some options on the table and his potential deportation in the future. It just means that, at least as of this moment, he can't actually be physically detained by ICE as all of this continues to be played out.
All right, always interesting speaking with you. I know you write about this a lot in your newsletter, The Gavel, which everybody should go over to thehill.com, click on newsletters, and get it delivered right to your inbox. Zach Schoenfeld, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Drew.